Hi, this is Dan Seward again. In this second video on orchestrated conversation, I'll go into some detail about how I have used the practice in my first year writing classes. The particular implementation I'll discuss was used in the first half of my 12-week entry-level writing class at an open enrollment university having a diverse body of non-traditional students. For this population, I chose three broad themes to allow all students to draw on their varied life experiences. These included social life, work life, and civic life. The final goal of the class was to have students develop a substantial research paper within one of these themes. Orchestrated discussion played an important role in preparing students for that final paper. In the first video and the accompanying write-up, I explained the overall concept of orchestrated asynchronous discussion, particularly how they entailed multi-week, multi-post discussion assignments grouped as movements. I also identified 4 genres of posting prompts and 3 forms of instructor orchestration. In this video, I'll discuss each discussion movement in detail as it would be implemented in a 12-week first-year writing course. To keep the video brief, however, I will go very quickly over the specific assignment instructions. Later, you can pause the video to read the text of the posting prompts more carefully. The first discussion movement, which I call conversation starters, is assigned before the class meets, a common practice in accelerated coursework. To open discussion on the themes, I asked students to write 3 paragraph-length postings reflecting what I call instrumental overtures. The instrument in question are 3 familiar rhetorical genres. Students post 1 message to each of 3 pre-made threads corresponding to the themes. These first postings allow students to build their identity through performances that reveal much more interesting aspects of their character than typically comes out in commonly used introduce yourself icebreaker posts. To ensure that these posts do in fact give students a chance to open up about their varied experiences and interests, it helps to provide models. Instructors can quickly inculcate a communal atmosphere by performing themselves the instrumental overture with personal details students find authentic. The follow-up prompt for the conversation starters movement also helps generate community. Students are asked simply to reply to 2 or more classmates within 3 days of the initial post. Within the orchestral metaphor, I think of these kinds of posts as improvisational interludes. I don't know which direction students will go with their replies or who will receive responses. This free-form participation is important for establishing a conversational tone for the discussion boards, but it also allows students to express themselves on the themes in a manner not conforming to directive prompts. I reinforce this point in my synchronous follow-up discussions for this movement by asking the class to think about the qualities of the postings that garnered replies. This reflection is continued in a more methodical way with the second movement on a forum called Common Topics. I begin this movement with a counterpoint prompt. The defining feature of counterpoint is that it somehow accentuates aspects of an existing theme, either by amplifying, reinterpreting, or contrasting. In the first prompt of this forum, I asked students to review messages on the Conversation Starters forum to identify topics treated by multiple classmates. The purpose of such an exercise is to emphasize to students the importance of recognizing patterns of discussion to determine the interests and values of fellow members of the discourse community. In their postings, students identify a common topic and explain briefly what seems to attract classmates. This cultivates students' ability to synthesize ideas from multiple writers, a skill necessary for research writing. But there's another requirement. Students must not repeat a thread identifying a topic already treated by somebody else. This reinforces a truism about conversation of any kind. Mere repetition does not advance inquiry, conversation, or socialization. For the follow-up postings of the Common Topics movement, students perform another kind of counterpoint. A few days after the initial posting, students are asked to identify topics overlooked within the larger themes, relevant topics that nonetheless haven't appeared in the conversation so far. This again cultivates an important academic writing skill, that of gap analysis. Students are asked to briefly explain in their postings why the missing topic might nonetheless be worth examining. By the end of the second movement, then, students have identified dozens of topics falling within the class themes, and they have begun discussing why these topics might be important to fellow members of the community, a conventional yet important move of academic and public writing alike. Moreover, these directed interactions are often accompanied by further improvisational postings, usually from students circling back to classmates who have chosen their initial posts as meaningful common topics. In the third movement, conducted on a forum called exploratory research, students proceed to another kind of orchestrated prompt, one requiring purposeful recapitulation. After perusing the Common Topics forum, students post a statement of interest, articulating their desire to explore a topic more fully. This more formal statement serves also to provide counterpoint because some topics previously treated within the theme are amplified further. The follow-up prompts for this movement ask students to respond in a decidedly academic genre, that is, by way of annotated bibliographic entries of sources treating their topics. This part of the movement serves as a kind of counterpoint development for the theme as well, this time by bringing outside voices into a conversation that has so far included only members of the class. Students are asked, in fact, to post multiple follow-up posts to their own statements of interest, each identifying a new kind of source that addresses the topic of the posted thread. Note that I actually let students post annotated references to threads besides their own, and I also let students post new statements of interest. This kind of improvisation helps reinforce the idea that an extended writing project is not a straight-line effort, but one that can often take detours or new paths entirely. Finally, in the fourth movement, students are asked to commit to a topic by way of a formal research paper topic proposal, which, like the statement of interest, represents a kind of purposeful recapitulation, one that reflects a decidedly academic genre. Significantly, the topic proposal encourages students to contextualize their paper within an ongoing dialogue about the topic, one that now includes voices of peers and public writers alike. The follow-up post for the fourth movement of this orchestrated discussion allows for one final expression of counterpoint, this time as classmates respond in the voice of a targeted reader. For proposal arguments, for instance, students would respond as a member of a committee who might decide upon whether a proposal will be followed. For an analytical research paper, the student might respond as a curious member of the public. In any case, with this last exchange of the discussion, students help reinforce the idea that the paper is indeed simply the next round of the conversation on the class theme. By now, however, the themes have been provided as a much richer context of discussion, one including a wide range of perspectives. In other words, the diverse academic community we want students to view as their audience for college writing.